The question is on a high efficiency water heater or furnace, they both have the same problems. What's called now the Model Energy Code regulation has hit us all. The Model Energy Code is kind of a national benchmark that says if we can cut the cost of heating and cooling and hot water generation, then we as a country can lower our dependence on foreign oil and all that sort of thing. So the Model Energy Code has changed the requirements prohibiting incandescent light bulbs for one, and requiring us to install only high efficiency water heaters and furnaces, meaning 90% or higher. The issue with a 90% or higher gas burning appliance is that it sucks so much heat out of that generator that the flue gas is now pretty cold. And when it gets so cold going up the flue or the chimney, it condenses back into water droplet forms with acid, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and also a couple other byproducts. But the issue is the acid in that very cool flue gas will deteriorate the clay-lined chimneys. So now we have to have stainless steel chimneys or special chimneys, or plastic pipes. How many of you have plastic pipes going out the side of your house? Kudos to you, that's high efficiency, that's 90% or better. Very good. The reason they're plastic is because the acid doesn't affect those plastic pipes. Now, what the answer to your question after all of that stuff is that they have relaxed the enforcement of that Model Energy Code just because they didn't really think it out. It was like the 1.6 gallon flush toilets 10 years ago. They were able to change the toilets by changing the law, but they weren't able to retrofit all of the plumbing and piping systems in buildings like this and others that were built for 3.5 gallon flush. Anyway, keep in mind that the air conditioner, the furnace, and the water heater comprise most of the energy use. Lighting can be as much as 20 to 30%, depends on how many little kids you have that just leave the lights on all the time. And that's the big deal about this incandescent light bulbs and the lighting, getting more to more efficient lighting. In a building like this where lights are on a lot and then they're on for maintenance at night and for gathering where we are here, likewise, that's also a substantial investment for the country. So it behooves us to get the more energy efficient light bulbs. Has anybody bought any new light bulbs recently? They sure cost a whole lot more now than they did before. Yeah, but that's it. Likewise, they also last 20 years or 30 years for some of the LEDs. Where are you buying the bulbs?
Where am I buying them?
Yeah.
Home Depot.
Be aware, bulbs sold retail and bulbs sold to building owners and managers like this are completely different appliances. They don't necessarily cost a whole lot different, but where you buy them, you're buying the convenience of going down to the corner store and buying a light bulb. But I will say that the technology for those bulbs to be worth the dollars there are available. I would agree with your experience that they may not be at the corner hardware store.
If they're not at the corner hardware store, like you said, Home Depot.
I would go to a Metro Electric professional lighting supply, someplace like that, and buying those bulbs, you'll find better advice. You're going to pay a few bucks more for that service, but you're also going to get a bulb or lamp, as we call it, that is designed for how many hours. Lumens, L-U-M-E-N-S, is the measurement of output or how much illumination you get out of this thing. And then years of service or hours of service, be aware of that. Those are more retail lingo than they are for professionals. But if you get a really good service person at a professional lighting store, you will pay a few bucks more. You will buy light bulbs that are not available at Home Depot and Lowe's. Those are price point light bulbs that are packaged and sold to get you and I to pick them up and pay a few bucks for them. They're not really made for long-lasting equipment return on investment. If I'm accountable for, say, a maintenance man running through this building changing light bulbs, I'm going to put a lot more effort into buying long-term light bulbs so that they last. Whereas if the goal is to get me to pick up a bulb at a retail store and pay a few bucks for it, that's a different objective than having the bulbs last a long time. And keep in mind, this is all new technology. A lot of these light bulbs were made for a market that was a hurry-up supply because the law changed. And you'll find that these light bulbs, even at Home Depot and Lowe's in the next 3 or 4 years, will last longer. Also because there'll be a little bit of consumer objections on, hey, these things are falling apart on me in the first hour or first year. So be aware, we're in a retooling of our lamping or lighting in the whole country.
So where are we right now between the CFLs and the LEDs as far as efficiency and investments? These cost more, but they last longer too.
The question is, how much do they cost and where are we in the quality line? 100-watt incandescent regular light bulb, say $1. A CFL or compact fluorescent light bulb, the little squiggly things that you see most commonly, those are generally $4. An LED for the same performance in LED light emitting diode is about $25. A CFL will last about 4 times longer than an incandescent. An LED will last about 20 times longer than an incandescent. For example, we put incandescent light bulbs in vaulted ceilings for people that just can't get up to change their light bulbs. It's worth it. I mean, it costs you $80 to put up a ladder or scaffolding or get some guy to come over to change your light bulb. It behooves us to spend $35 on a light bulb. So that's a perfect application. Yes. The CFLs, compact fluorescent, do they have mercury in them? Yes, they do. Very small, minute amount. They are considered toxic. So they do get disposed just like the big long fluorescent bulbs. Those have mercury in them as well. They are so energy efficient that it's considered to be a good trade. But they must be recycled and disposed of properly because it does have trace amounts of mercury for sure. LEDs do not. Light emitting diodes is really just a TV screen in a little small space. An incandescent light bulb, 100 watts, is the same as a 100-watt space heater. So 1,500-watt light bulbs is truly a space heater of 1.5 kW, which is the size of a small furnace. And therefore, it puts out a lot of heat. The energy savings on these incandescent light bulbs going to a CFL or compact fluorescent, this gentleman was saying it's much cooler. It doesn't burn off a lot of energy, it doesn't waste a lot of energy making heat. It goes right to the light of glowing through these gases and a little bit of this mercury as well. So it makes gases glow instead of a filament creating heat, which is nothing more than a glowing wire that's a short in the electric. And then the LEDs are the same way. Color, if you go to the store and you buy what you want to be a 100-watt light bulb and you buy a CFL, if you buy what the package says is right, this is comparable to a 100-watt light. It is in lumens, but it's a different color. If you go home and you put them all throughout your house, you'll turn on the lights. Even after they warm up, you'll look at it and you'll think, this is kind of dingy brown and just not cheerful. Upsize that light bulb in a CFL by about 10 to 20%. You're still saving about 50% in energy savings. You'll be much brighter, it'll be much cheerier, and you'll find that the color of the light is much more friendly. And then there are different heat ranges for these light bulbs here. I don't want to get too deep into light bulbs, I'll put everybody asleep. But be aware that by upsizing these very efficient light bulbs, you can be very happy and pleased with the color and the energy savings and the longevity of the lighting. Okay, we'll see what's next here. Moisture management, I got a little bit into this. Flashing, roof water drainage, pavement and slope. Water that slopes toward your house, that's bad. Water that slopes away from your house, that's good. Whether it's a roof, a downspout, patio, driveway, deck, a windowsill, all those things. On this bottom left photo is a picture of water leaking inside of a 6-year-old window. Have any of you heard of Tyvek? It's a weather-resistant barrier. We call it a WRB in the lingo of building science. All it is kind of a raincoat that goes on the outside of a house that keeps the moisture on the outside and the heat on the inside. Most of that has been incorrectly installed in St. Louis and the United States. About 20% of my company's business is opening up walls and correcting the poorly installed Tyvek that was built in the roaring years of construction. where I'm in the Midwest, I've been doing this for 20 years, leave me alone, I don't read directions. And I'm a carpenter, I'm an old carpenter, I'm a master carpenter, master builder. So I too put this stuff in wrong 20, 30 years ago. But the technology of construction, of energy efficiency, of the green and the conserving of materials has created a highly engineered structure compared to years ago. When you built it out of brick or concrete block or wood and you just let the wind blow through it, it didn't build up moisture, it didn't rot, there were no mold stories. Anybody hear the word mold around your home anytime 20 years before, 20 years ago? No. Our houses just breathed, the water and the wind came in and out, dried itself, no problem. Then we learned well, let's keep all that heat inside. So we did, we kept all the, which then we cook in the summer and it becomes growing rot, mold, fungus, indoor air quality problems, and now we've got a whole bunch of people running around with asthma, allergies, and a preponderance of toxicity issues that we as builders have built into these buildings because we haven't paid attention. The manufacturers were changing materials faster than we as an industry. We're training ourselves. So you as the consumer in many ways around these issues that I'm bringing forth, you may be aware of issues and you may need to ask more questions than normal. And that's really the whole issue of my St. Louis KMOX radio show. I'm the home improvement show host on Saturday mornings from 11 to 2. And for 3 hours, my show started out as 2 hours and it went to 3 hours because there was enough consumer demand to ask questions. They weren't getting these questions answered through their building professionals. So that's the whole idea of this show and why I'm out here sharing what I know, because to some extent, you know, my peers in the industry are resistant to learning this stuff. So, you know, and I'm not immune. You know, I built a lot of these dumb things in my 20s. And then I went back in my 30s fixing them, but what changed was in my late 30s I figured out I shouldn't be fixing the things I did in my 20s. So I kind of went to school, and that's called building science. You'll hear much more about that in the next 10 or 20 years as we're learning how to not make these mistakes again as a construction industry. So anyway, just keep the water away. We started with the outside of the house. We went to the foundation, relative humidity, heat, cooling, hot water, domestic hot water. All of these you will be faced with making capital investments of spending this much and having very low operating